evening. Welcome to the Big Story. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
Tonight's big stories: at least 80 more Filipinos are up for deportation as Trump's immigration policies kick in. Meanwhile, Filipino officials downplay the impact of the U.S. freeze on all foreign aid.
Maharlika Investment Corporation finally makes its first investment and buys out a 20% stake in the national power grid operator.
And the wife of an alleged Chinese spy comes forward to say that her husband is nothing more than a road surveyor, at least as far as she knows.
The Department of Foreign Affairs is once again appealing to so-called TNTs, or undocumented Filipinos in the United States. Come home and don't wait for the Trump administration to start with the mass deportations.
This was after the DFA confirmed that 24 Filipinos have been deported because of petty crimes. They also said there's more to go.
But of course, there are questions on whether they will be getting any assistance or livelihood when they get home. Rainiel Pawid with tonight's big story.
Alias Carlo went back home to the Philippines last December. He was an undocumented immigrant the whole 13 years of his stay in the United States. Just like millions of other Filipinos, he held on to the American dream. Carlo took a lot of odd jobs and all the while looked over his shoulder while trying to make ends meet for more than a decade.
Nakatira po kami sa sa LA, sa Los Angeles. At nagtatrabaho po ako sa isang kitchen. Ako po ay nagluluto, tagapagluto po ako ron, nag-construction paminsan-minsan. Kung saan po may pera, doon po ako pumupunta.
Every week, Carlo managed to take home $1,000 or about 55,000 pesos. He wanted to go home but worried if there's that kind of money that can be earned back in the Philippines.
Wala pong trabaho dito na maiko-compare ko doon na magbabayad doon sa kinikita ko doon sa nawala sa akin.
Eventually, Carlo just got tired of the cat and mouse. Donald Trump winning as U.S. President again and promising mass deportation was the last straw for Carlo.
Nagsawa na po ako sa patago-tago. Yung hindi ka na komportable, na baka isumbong ka, iniisip mo baka may magawa ka sa pinagtatrabahuhan mo o katrabaho mo na mayroong papel, baka isumbong ka nila, bigla ka na lang maaresto.
Just this weekend, the Department of Foreign Affairs reported that 24 Filipinos were deported from the U.S. They were expelled because of their crime records. This batch of deportees went home between October last year and January 18 of this year. The DFA did not disclose what kind of cases these Filipinos were involved in, only that their crimes were relatively petty. There will be other Filipino deportees according to the Philippine Embassy in the U.S., or around 80 more soon. Foreign Affairs officials again appealed to undocumented Pinoys not to wait to be forced out of America and volunteer to peacefully live instead.
Well, legalize your stay. Sinabi ng embassy yan. Sinabi ng embassy, if you're ready, go home on your own para hindi kayo ma-deport. Legalize your stay. There are lawyers, lawyers who can help you.
For News 5, Rainiel Pawid, we are One News.
Well, the other Trump mandate that had people scrambling over the weekend was his directive to pause all foreign aid for 90 days. Reuters first broke the news on Saturday after reviewing a sharply worded stop work memo sent to more than 10,000 staff at USAID, or the U.S. Agency for International Development. Trump ordered U.S. aid to freeze all foreign aid worldwide pending a review, even for existing or ongoing appropriations, and threatened disciplinary action on any staff who ignored it. Any future aid will have to align with Trump's America First policy, the memo said. This sent shockwaves around the world, not least of which this part of the world, which is a major recipient of U.S. aid and grants. But in the Philippines, NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan downplayed concerns over the impact, saying most of our loans are with multilateral banks. And so did DFA Undersecretary Eduardo de Vega, who said the freeze shouldn't severely impact the country.
Not so much directly, no, and in the short term. Much of our loans now are with other countries and multilateral institutions, no, and then the grants. Yeah, the U.S. is the #1 source of grants, and that's where the impact would be. But those are a small part of the economy. No? The impact would be more indirect. For example, the major shareholder of the multilateral institutions is the U.S. World Bank, ADB. If those, if the lending facility, especially for official development assistance, in those institutions is affected, then we can also be affected in the medium term. No?
So, right now, economically, we have a lot of partners. And while the U.S. involvement in our economy as a trading partner is still very high, I think even with the freeze, it's not like it's going to severely affect us. Kasi maliit lang naman yung aid package. If you mean that the freeze will affect the EDCA sites, no. They will not suddenly abandon the EDCA sites. They know the importance of EDCA for the interests of both the U.S. and the Philippines.
I think we have to contextualize this story, because Secretary Balisacan is correct in pointing out that most of our loans come from multilateral lenders, but
The World Bank, the IMF.
guess who is one of the biggest funders of multilateral lenders as well? It's the US. So he talked about the World Bank. The World Bank is headquartered in Washington, D.C. for good reason. He talked about the ADB. The ADB's one of the top 5 funders is also the United States. I mean, Japan has always been the biggest funder of the ADB, but then the United States, if I recall correctly, is either second or third. So that will impact indirectly as well.
Are financial loans included as foreign aid? I mean, are they categorized as foreign aid?
Some of them are categorized under official development.
Depends, and it's
Depends
not
on the
clear. Well,
the project.
ODAs are government-to-government loans. USAID works primarily in the development projects, right? So, but the thing that I wanted to point out here is when you look at the World Bank, even the World Bank, the Philippines is actually the 5th largest borrower from the World Bank in 2023, which is the last full year picture that we have. The 2024 numbers aren't ready yet. So we borrowed at least $2.336 billion from the World Bank in 2023. I'm pretty sure I can say that in 2024 that would have gone up because, you know, these kinds of loans, they never get scaled back.
Even just USAID, I mean, a lot of people, you know, here in Manila, we keep thinking, or even if you live in a big city, you don't really hear of USAID. But if you go out into the hinterlands and the rural areas, they do a lot of projects. Like, we're talking like basics, like clean water.
I was actually looking at the list of projects. So they do help us in the economy, environment, health, and humanitarian aid. So a few of their projects accelerate helping women in the BARM region.
Children,
Meron silang
women,
bangsamoro
teachers.
transition process. They also have emergency preparedness, disaster response, global health security.
So let's take a look at the breakdown for 2023, which again is the last full year, the picture that we have. 2024 numbers are not ready yet. In total, the USAID funded 175 projects in the Philippines with a total spending of $198,193,966,000. Yes, that is calculated right down to the last dollar because it is U.S. taxpayer money, and so they all have to account for it. And they spent among some of the projects that they spent the most on had to do with the environment, which would cover everything from combating plastic pollution to
fisheries, climate resilience,
clean water,
forestry, and clean water.
Hastening the clean energy transition. And then maybe this is what you're talking about in terms of the rural areas, right? With health, for instance, it's providing TB and HIV prevention and treatment programs
like
in the
maternal
rural
care,
areas.
Immunization,
family planning.
These
These
really
are
simple
all very important projects that, you know, they're basically filling the gaps where the government can no longer reach or provide access to, which is,
you know, and
which
also
is what worries me about this whole thing when they say, okay, it's not going to severely impact the Philippines. You know,
maybe we're downplaying it a bit, right?
Yeah, you got to
you
look
don't
at it
know
in the whole
like
context.
what you're missing until it's gone, and then you realize, that's how much reliance we have.
It is
on that thing.
$198 million after all in 1 year.
That's right. And also emergency response, you touched on that. That has to do with capacity building for LGUs. They did a project last year, or yes, in 2023, building up capacity for the Bicol LGU, and then come 2024, we know what happened there, right? It was hit by a devastating typhoon. So their capacity building in terms of emergency response has to do with how to provide camp and temporary shelter, and how to deliver timely emergency response to the communities that are impacted by climate change, and so on and so forth. So these are, again, community projects that perhaps the national government is no longer able to fund or no longer able to give attention to, and that's where they come in and try to fill in the gaps, which is why it worries me when our officials, say that
Don't
it
realize
may
the
not severely.
magnitude.
I'm sure. Look, NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan is an economist through and through, and I think he understands probably the gravity of the situation. Maybe he doesn't go down into the nitty-gritty of things. Maybe he's thinking more of the top line number,
macroeconomic
right?
level, yeah.
Maybe the top line number, but in terms of real grassroots impact, I think it's going to be.
Well,
I think so. If you take a look at if you go to like in BARMM, a lot of the school buildings,
Yes,
they're
BARM.
USAID, NZAID, Australaid, right? Those are the three biggest ones. Even yung mga poso for clean water,
Yeah.
so there's one in every community, and it's also sponsored.
They've
And
also
those
got
are
a
basic.
project helping BARM transition,
That's correct. Warm transition
right? Which is huge.
and
right?
livelihood for the women there.
Correct.
Entrepreneurship project. So really a lot.
Fostering women entrepreneurship in BARM, right? Which is going to be key to their autonomy, right? Which is what they're working towards.
But also we should point out that, this might not be the end. I mean, it is a 90-day freeze, and there will be a review after 85 days. But the caveat there is these projects have to kind of align with Trump's America First
so
policy.
we know what America's Trump policy is, right? It's very clear, America first. What is in it for us? We know he's all about transactions. So again, we come back to the table and say, what can the Philippines offer?
Yeah.
The
It's like-
United
it's like a
States in
contract
exchange.
review.
Exactly. So
it
then, what do we have?
Renegotiate.
Then the EDCA sides come
EDCA
into play.
sides. We have
Then
the
the
EDCA
defense
sides.
and the military.
Maybe we have to give more
assets. Exactly.
in exchange for that
Exactly.
$198
Might also
million.
be a little too early to be posturing about this, but certainly that's a plausible scenario if the United States comes back and says, okay, what can you give us in exchange?
Well, President Trump certainly reclaiming their hold on that huge foreign aid.
Yeah.
And freezing it, except for Israel and Egypt, providing only a waiver for food emergencies. But again, 90 days to go, so we will keep an eye out on that. In other news, back here in the Philippines, the wife of the Chinese national who was arrested last week, along with 2 Filipinos, on alleged espionage activities, has finally spoken up. In a press conference today, Noemi Deng denied the allegations against her husband. She said she met Yan Ching online in 2013, got married, and now have a son together. Despite this, Mrs. Deng could not provide further details about his professional background. The NBI alleges that Yan Ching's group frequently visited military and police camps, as well as power plants, offices of local government units, seaports, and airports. Mrs. Deng said that as far as she knew, her husband surveys roads for a self-driving car company and insists that he is not a spy.
Hindi ko po alam kung ano po yung tamang term na gagamitin para sa trabaho niya po. Basta nagtitest sila ng daan para doon sa carless by driverless po. Opo, self-driving. Mahigit 10 years na po siya dito. May anak po kami, 8 years old. Natatakot po ako sa kahihinat na ng anak ko sa school. Dahil sa media na lumalabas na spy yung daddy.
In that same press conference, the anti-crime group Movement for Restoration of Peace and Order says it wants an impartial investigation into the matter. Founding President Teresita Ang C. called out the seeming trial by publicity on Deng Yanqing. C also claims the government has refused consular visits from the Chinese embassy to Yanqing. And to get more details on this, we have on the show tonight Teresita Ang C. herself. Good evening. Welcome to The Big Story. Can you hear us?
Yeah, good evening.
Okay, Ms. Teresita, we do know that in other interviews you've spoken that you have already reached the family of Deng Yanqing. First, how were you able to get in touch with them? And what have they shared with you regarding the origins of Yang Xin? Because kilala niyo rin po yung mother and sister and a friend of Deng Yang Xin. Am I correct?
Yeah, because the event happened on January 17. He was arrested, and the wife was able to talk to him January 19. The NBI called her up to tell her that they have in custody Yuanqing. So si Noemi requested to talk to Ching. And she was allowed to talk, and then Ching told her and assured her not to be afraid, not to be worried, because she had done nothing wrong. They don't have any warrant of arrest, and as far as he knows, he was just doing his work. And he said, "Don't worry, I will be released very soon because I have done nothing wrong." So after that, there was no more communication with Ching, and even the family had no communication. So from various sources, I got a call from a friend of the family. Then I got a call from the sister, Wen Ying. And then after that, I was able to talk to Noemi, who I think was asked to call me. So they were requesting for help because as far as they know, Yuanqing has never been involved in anything illegal. He's a very quiet person, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't go out for good time. In fact, live a very simple life, trying to earn money because he has to support his elderly parents. He has to support his wife and his kid, no? So she said, how can he be involved in spying when he doesn't even go out aside from his work? He doesn't even go join Barcada or have any good time outside the house. So those are the things that the family told me. And they were really so afraid and, of course, so frustrated at what happened because they immediately sensationalized the story without due diligence, without finding out what is the truth behind what they're saying. Because if which spy will allow his equipment to be caught inside his own car in full view of anyone. They know that there's a Comelec checkpoint. They know all of police operations. So if he's a spy, he wouldn't be bringing his equipment along with him. No, those are the things that they told me before I really got involved and tried to find out, because I think they do deserve to be helped, no? When they beg me to help Yanqing.
Ms. Teresita, I also saw a couple of days ago in a report in the Philippine Star that, supposedly Yanqing has been denied consular services. So those from the Chinese embassy here in Manila can't see him. Is this still true or has it changed?
Well, we were able to visit myself and Noemi, the wife, went to Muntinlupa, the new Bilibid prison, and we were able to talk to him. And then we relayed to the Chinese embassy. Then the Chinese embassy said because they already started intercession of the DFA to allow them the consular visit. Because when they went to NBI, the NBI refused to show them Yanqing, which is very, very strange. As you know, we have OFWs all over the world. This thing never happens. When you arrest a foreign national, the first one you should inform is the Chinese embassy. So how come you do not even allow a consular visit of their own national? And I mean, that is already a red flag to me that they refuse. So I joined the family in worrying that they might have harmed him because they don't want to present him. They don't dare to present him. So up to today, I don't know if the embassy already succeeded, because I relayed to him that we were able to see Yanqing even if today is not a visiting day. I said the wife just arrived from Zamboanga and she's quite sick. You know, they saw her, and you saw her on TV also. Oh, that she's really not feeling well, but she forced herself to fly from Zamboanga to come to Manila to be able to see if her wife is really okay, no? Because in Comunicado, when we talked to Yanqing, he said he begged the NBI to have a phone call several times, and they refused. They refused to allow him to talk to anybody.
Does he have a lawyer, a Filipino lawyer, to represent him?
During the interview, during the preparation of, during the inquest at the DOJ, they gave him a POW lawyer who allowed him to sign a waiver for further investigation. I mean, of course, these three, the two drivers and Ching, didn't even know what it means, no, to sign a waiver for further investigation. So they signed it without, just with a POW lawyer, no? It's a good thing that at least there is a lawyer there. But as of today, the 10th day, he hasn't talked with his own private lawyer. We got the lawyer only this morning by chance, because Attorney Topacio agreed, no, to stand as his lawyer only this morning.
That's Attorney Ferdinand Topacio, just to be clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Angsi, the authorities insist that he's a red flag. And one of the points that they said was that they say that Deng graduated from the Army Engineering University.
That's so stupid. They got the diploma of Yanqing.
All right.
They got the diploma. He graduated from a vocational technical school.
Okay, hold on.
He doesn't know anything about PLA.
Okay,
hold on. That came out from the interview.
Let me finish it just for our viewers' context. So they say, the authorities here say he graduated from the Army Engineering University of the People's Liberation Army, which is a Nanjing-based military school, and specialized in control and automation engineering in that school. So let's come back to your answer, which is, as far as you know, does this have any basis?
They raided, according to Yanqing this morning, when they were downstairs, they asked him, what is your apartment unit? He said, number 6. They went there, and they showed him that they got his marriage certificate, they got his diploma. So he said, the wife, no, because Yanqing doesn't even, at first did not even know that they were using something like PLA. He said, I don't know anything about a PLA. And then this Noemi, in the interview this morning, in the press con this morning, she said that when she went to China and lived there for a while, Ching even brought her to his school, no? And it is a technical vocational school. So he said it has no relation with the China Army. That's why that is another red flag to me. That's why I accepted to help the family, because when I saw the initial statement on media, when they presented Ching, no, Ching was the one who begged them for a mask, because they gave, it's the NBI who gave the driver a cover to cover their faces, and refused to give Ching any cover until she begged for at least a face mask, and then they gave it to him, no? So what is happening? Are they trying to make China and Philippines go to war and fight a war that nobody can win? I mean, why make up this kind of ridiculous story about a PLA university?
Okay, before we go to xenophobia, Mrs. Angsi, I just wanted to ask about the company that Deng Yanqing works for. It should be easy enough, right, to get a certification that he in fact, is employed by that self-driving car company, and he is here to map out those cars. Has anyone, his sister perhaps,
Yes.
tried to reach out to his
Yes,
company?
yes. Before I agreed to help them, I asked a Chinese friend to check the company for me because it's in Chinese, not the name of the company is in Chinese. And then he checked it. The company is an internationally registered company. The latest clients are Singapore and Malaysia. They already finished work in the United States, in Taiwan, in Korea, and in Australia. All of them are US allies. If that company, which is internationally renowned, is involved in any kind of spying activity or even have a tiny inkling or a tiny suspicion, the United States and Taiwan will be the last country who will have any contract with this company. So I said, if I, a layman who is just a victim's advocate, was able to check the company of Yanqing, how come the NBI did not do their assignment? I don't know. I really am flabbergasted. I'm really am so shocked at how they sensationalize finding equipment in his car and then jumping to the conclusion that he is a spy.
Mr.
I
Rosita?
did due diligence in asking a communication expert to check the list of equipment that the NBI gave. And my friend gave me a description of each one. He said, and all of them, he checked, are available in Shopee and Lazada. So they are ordinary surveying equipment, maybe a bit more sophisticated than what the Waze is doing because it's for driverless, for self-driving cars. So it's more exact. There is a device they call for timing, up to the millisecond timing, because the car cannot just hit anything. So the timing is also very important. That's why Yuanqing was contracted to do something
Mr.
like that.
Rosita, we actually threw that question to the PNP. We told them that all of these equipment seemingly can be bought online, but they responded to us by saying we should not underestimate anything like this, especially during these times where there are high geopolitical tensions. But can you explain to us the data that they said they were able to retrieve from those equipment, data mapping military camps, bases, power plants, offices of LGUs, police camps, seaports, airports, and malls?
Yes.
What do you say to that?
Yes, because it's a survey. Do you see? I'm sure you see cars of Google Maps going around lately because January they always update their maps. Of course, this road surveying cars will pass through all of those things. I mean, but then did they enter those camps? They just pass through all of those things. And thank you for bringing up the PNP. No, I would like to invite the 3 PNP people who went to the NBI detention facility in Bilibid to tell us what happened to their interview, because Yuanqing told us that during the interview with the NBI, the interview of the two drivers, it is question, answer, question, answer. But during his interview, it's all interrogation. And if he replied something that they did not want to hear, they smack him. They really smack him. So he said, I just kept quiet. I cannot answer because I do not know those things that they are saying. He said that is what he told me this morning. And then he revealed that there were PNP people who went to interview him, and we will be happy if they can. No, if you heard Attorney Topacio this morning, he said if he is a spy, there are equipment that are very, very tiny, and then you cannot it's not like what he has in his car, no, in his own car, visible to everyone to see, no, and those are big items. So if he is a spy, then you be using a really small one. You see, hard drive, no, marami naman tayong thumb drive that are very very small to store data, but he is using a hard drive.
Mrs.
So what is
Angsi?
so strange about it? No, that's why. I mean, they are so fond, I think, of reading spy stories and conspiracy theories. I would like to request, no, my appeal, no, I'm sorry, but because I have to be leaving soon, my appeal is for them to do their homework, to do impartial investigation, but in the meantime, release the three for further investigation, or release them, file the case, and then let the judge give them the bail, because it is a bailable offense, no? So let them get out, because the parents are suffering a lot. They're in their 70s and they're very sick. Every year during Chinese New Year, Yuanqing goes home to China to visit the parents, no? As in our own tradition. But this year he cannot go back at all.
Mrs. Angsi, I just want to go back to the lawyer situation for Yensing, because first it was the PAO lawyer, and then you said just today Attorney Ferdy Topacio agreed to take his case. Is that just for today, or will he be the counsel moving forward? And also,
I think he will be, no? Because he asked for a meeting tomorrow, right, so that we can plan what is the best way to at least bring him out, no? To bring him out of being detained. So, especially the two drivers, no? The family are also suffering. I mean, out of the blue, and the two drivers were being asked, oh, sige na, sabihin na lang ninyo na spy yung kasama ninyo. But it is very often, it's the driver themselves who are operating the equipment. Lahat silang tatlo, they take turns kung sino ang pag-operate, magda-drive and everything, no? And I mean, I've been in under-crime work for 45 years, no? But I haven't seen things like this that can just be sensationalized just like that, no? Without even a cursory investigation.
Mrs. Angsi,
you already jump to conclusion that he is a spy, and then the family is being bullied, no? In Zamboanga, say, oh, asawa mo pala, spy. Buti na lang, most of the neighbors went to Noemi, visited her, and said, hindi, alam namin yung buhay ninyo. Yung asawa mo nga, simpleng-simple, okra at repolyo lang ang gustong kainin, no? Doesn't live a luxurious life. Alam namin na hindi ka spy, no? So the neighbors in Zamboanga support them, no? Pero the public jump to the conclusion using the narrative of the NBI na spy nga daw si Yanqing.
Mrs. Angsi, you've been very vocal about, people quick to judge Chinese. Nung ano pa lang, way back when the Pogo issue started, the West Philippine Sea issue started.
It's all feeding into xenophobia.
Yeah, basically you've raised the flag, no, and the warning, a warning call for possible xenophobia. Do you think it's actually getting worse?
Yes. Yeah. Because this is an example. I mean, using the PLA is already a very blatant example. Why choose People's Liberation University? No, bakit yan? Out of everything that you can say, why use the PLA? Kung hindi yan, nananadya to really spread xenophobia. And this is very crucial to us, no? Kasi pati kaming mga Chinoy, nagiging collateral damage. Yung Pogo, 2012 pa lang, kami ang unang-unang nanawagan, isara ninyo yung mga Pogo, walang magandang mangyayari dyan, walang magandang resulta manggagaling dyan, no? But they took their time, tapos suddenly, 6 months, sasabihin mo, sarado na. Without any safety nets to our Filipino workers, without any safety nets, what are you going to do with the Chinese who cannot go home, who have children here? Anong gagawin mo doon? Wala. wala kang plano. Siyempre, gusto naman namin mangyari yung isara, yung pogo. Pero nasaan yung mga preparations mo? Nasaan yung plano mo? Wala kang work plan. Wala kang action plan na gagawin. Basta inutos mo. Ngayon, ano nangyayari? Ang gulo-gulo tuloy na nangyayari. No? Alam na sa Bindo, it's really spreading a lot of fears. No? Na most of them, I said unfounded yan, no? Na-exaggerate din. But some of them are true, no? Yung mga nangyayari sa parking lot, those who look Chinese. Pareho na ni Yanqing, sabi ng asawa niya, kasi he looks Chinese eh. Kaya hinuli yan, no? Mga ganon. Mga conclusion like that.
Yes,
So,
as the family of Teng Yan-sing makes their defense, we thank you so much for providing us with more clarity and answers with what you can. Maraming salamat for joining us tonight on The Big Story. We have Movement for Restoration of Peace and Order founding president, Ms. Teresita Angsi. Thank you. Now let's pause for a quick break. We will have more of today's headlines for you. This is The Big Story on One News. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
Let's circle back to our top story, Trump's policies when it comes to deportation and the freezing of foreign aid finally kicking in. Let's discuss this with Dindo Manhit. He's the president of Stratrace Group. Hi, Dindo. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
Hey, thanks for taking time out of your busy night to talk to us. First off, over the weekend, the Trump policy, that the latest one that sent shockwaves around the world, is the memo that he sent to U.S. aid, pausing all U.S. foreign aid for 90 days pending review. What did you make of it, and how big of an impact do you think it will have on the Philippines, which is a major recipient of U.S. aid money?
I think what is given in this instruction of President Trump is really maybe a review based on the priorities that they want to happen, or are refocusing based on the tagline, Make America First, because that has always been what has driven their agenda. So will it affect our projects? Maybe it will just delay some of our projects. But I think on the security side, I don't see it being covered by aid, because our security is more on a broader partnership that we have, and it's limited, and it's not considered as an aid because it's focused on the initiatives also of the U.S. defense sector.
Right. Well, actually, explain to us how it works, Dindo. You work with the embassies here closely. For something, for instance, like the $500 million military aid that they announced last year, where would the money for that have come from? And will that be impacted by an EO like this?
It's possible, but depending on what is covered by that EO. And
Sorry,
in the case of
sorry,
our
I should correct myself. It's not an EO yet. It's just a memo to U.S. aid officials.
Yes, I think it's really more of an assessment of what their directions are. So I don't really see it as negative as it could be. And moving forward, I think it's also good to align the projects of the U.S. Embassy here and their aid agency, or the U.S. aid, to focus on what are the priorities of a new president. And I think that's what we can expect, really, in the next 90 days. Well, I mean, even programs and projects through the years, I've seen that these are assessed when there are new Congress, congressional leadership, realignment of budgets. So I think it's part of the bureaucratic process of any aid agency.
Dindo, we do know that President Trump does not believe in climate change. He withdrew from the Paris Agreement. And taking a look at the list of projects USAID has with us, they do support us when it comes to disaster response, emergency preparedness, climate resilience, fisheries, forestry, safe water, a lot to do with climate change and receiving climate justice. Do you think that end will most likely suffer?
It could be, given the strong position of President Trump and his administration on this issue. But for me, really, I think at the end of the day, our government, we are an independent republic. We have programs, projects, initiatives within our own Philippine development plan. So we can simply adjust and work with other like-minded countries that maybe share our values on addressing climate change, addressing climate risks. So I think it's really about a challenge also for our government, and which they have done in the security side to broaden our partnership and alliances on the area of climate.
Well, earlier, before you dialed in, Dindo, the three of us were discussing here about one of the, I guess, worst case scenarios, you could call it, that because Trump is transactional and because he said that, you're right, it is a 90-day review of these programs, and he wants only programs that align with the America First policy that he has. And we were wondering if he could use it as a bargaining chip, for example, to get the Philippine government to be more compliant or to be more malleable to their demands, amenable?
As long as this discussion does not affect our own national interest, I think that's part of any discussion on aid. We experience that in terms of our aid program or our own partnership with institutions like Asian Development Bank, World Bank. So it's really up for the aid-given country to impose on us what they deem is important. But on our part, we should not forget what is our national interest. It's not about sacrificing our national interest. Aids are meant to support our directions towards our own national goals and objectives.
And do you think we can survive without foreign aid? Okay,
Oh, yes,
maybe not
we are.
all foreign aid, but
From the U.S.
just without U.S. aid.
We will survive. I think we fail to realize that we are the number 32 biggest economy in the world. Our government is heavily funded by our own revenue-generating agencies. We're not aid-driven. Aid is an addition to our programs of government in accordance with the Philippine Development Plan for the next 4 years. So I think it's really up for us to see what is our priority areas and focus our efforts on that, given what aid we get from other countries or what even we can fund through our own revenue generating process to our fiscal managers.
That may be true, Dindo, but we are also the 5th largest borrower to the World Bank per 2023 numbers. I just looked it up before the show started. We borrowed a total of $2.3 billion in 2023.
Borrowing is different from aid.
Right. But I want the thing that I wanted But the thing that I wanted to point out was that the World Bank is actually one of the biggest funders is also the United States. So if the point being that if the spigot is being tightened in terms of all of the money that gets spent overseas, do you think it may eventually eat into programs that the World Bank disburses?
Well, that would be a different issue because it's up for, then it will also show that the U.S., who has strong influence over the World Bank, will lose that. And are they ready to lose that? So I think for us, we have to, it really shows how the U.S. and any change in their government affects the world. And it's a reality that we all need to live with. But the best is really how can we strengthen our own internal capacity and work, not limited to the U.S., on allies, partners that can really serve our programs, our initiatives. So, but for me, this is a 90-day review. Just like any project, it can be reviewed. So I fear that I feel that there should be nothing to fear unless specific items are discussed.
Dindo, how do you think this would affect the level of influence that the United States has all over the world if they do reduce the amount of foreign aid they give? We do know that aid is a form of soft diplomacy, the way they put their arms around the affairs of other countries. How, if they do become more internal based in terms of the way they spend their resources, how would that affect the position of the United States all over the world?
Of course, these are all speculations on their part. If this will continue or simply a review of programs or even a refocusing of programs. But very important is for the U.S. to realize that if they would like also to be respected, and the best way to win in any transactional initiative is to be in a position of strength. So for me, I think I still believe it is simply a review of programs or initiatives by this new government. But if I profile him, the President of the United States, Trump, as transactional, the best way is to be in the position of strength. And they will attain that in their own ways. And that is what we're seeing right now.
Well, here's hoping President Trump is watching. You got to do it from a position of strength. Remember, that was from good advice from Strat-based President Dindo Manhit. We're going to have to leave that there for tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
That's my cue to pause for another quick break, but still ahead. Acting House Appropriations Committee Chair Stella Kimbo admits blanks in the BICAM report on the 2025 budget, but she says there's nothing illegal about it. The details next. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
The 2025 General Appropriations Act is legal and valid. That's how Acting House Appropriations Chair Stella Kimbo answered News 5's question on whether there are blanks in the BICAM report for the said budget. She dodged that question for days. In a statement, Kimbo emphasized that the enrolled General Appropriations Bill is complete without blank allocations among its more than 235,000 line items. But she also said that technical secretariats of both the Senate and the House were authorized to make corrections and adjustments to the budget. All changes, she insisted, did not affect the integrity nor the legality of the budget and were approved by lawmakers.
At the point of signing by the BICAM members, ay lahat naman po ng appropriations amounts have already been decided upon. Ibig sabihin, lahat po ng naging corrections ng ating technical staff, lahat po yan ay ministerial na lamang. Ibig sabihin, calculator activity na lang po.
Former Senate President Tito Soto tweeted Kimbo's statements. He said, quote, "Our legislators need to undergo parliamentary rules and procedures workshop. Ministerial corrections by technical staff are never allowed in any bill, much more a law." Soto insisted such changes should be brought back to the plenary. In the end, Kimbo says anyone who questions the GAA can elevate the matter to the Supreme Court.
Meanwhile, the Maharlika Investment Corporation, which manages the country's sovereign wealth fund, has made its first investment. Maharlika acquired a 20% stake in Synergy Grid and Development Philippines, or SGP, which in turn owns just over 40% of the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, or NGCP. But the price was not disclosed. It's been a year and a half since the wealth fund came into being. President Bongbong Marcos was on hand to witness the signing too, alongside Maharlika President and CEO Rafael Consing. They were also joined by SGP Chairman Henry C. Jr. Under the agreement, Maharlika will gain 2 board seats each at SGP and NGCP, which, by the way, operates the country's power grid. Malacanang said the deal was a chance to regain influence over critical national infrastructure. Notably, China's State Grid Corporation also owns 40% of NGCP. Now, this Chinese stake has been the bone of contention for a while now, given the ongoing territorial dispute and issues around POGOs. At a House hearing last week on the operator's performance, lawmakers repeatedly questioned why NGCP's Chinese board members were not present. Well, it seems to be about 7 years left in the franchise of NGCP.
They did secure a 25-year franchise in late 2008. That was a time when it was privatized. So yung nagyari dyan, yung Transco, which owns all the transmission assets of the Philippines, privatize nila. Pero the NGCP now runs it and operates it and makes improvements, but it does not own, the actual assets. But
this, okay, so we were talking to Ms. Ang Si about xenophobia and all the issues with the geopolitics feeding into issues that are domestic. This could be one of those because NGCP requires a legislative franchise, and as we said, they've got about 7 years left in the franchise. And the thing is, NGCP is 40% owned by China's Grid Corporation.
China Grid Corporation.
If I recall the formal name, China's Grid Corporation. And last week at a House hearing on the performance of NGCP, that also became a bone of contention, right? The fact that the Chinese board members did not turn up to the hearing. And in fact, they got into a yelling match at some point between congressmen like Franz Pomaren, Rufus Rodriguez,
Luis Tro, and the
galit
executives.
Sila basically that the Chinese board members didn't turn up, even though the local official, the director of NGCP, explained it's Chinese New Year, so they have to be away. It's a big holiday.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's the biggest holiday in the calendar for the Chinese,
It's
right?
probably their only holiday
Right.
in
But
China.
it does remind me of the state of TikTok in the United States, right?
Right.
How
Right.
U.S. Congress is forcing TikTok to sell the company to a U.S. partner, right? But this is an issue of national security. We're talking about power here.
That's what they're saying,
That's what
right?
the
But
U.S. says as well. It's an issue of national security. But it's also
they have
become-
not actually proved that there have been any sort of like kumbaga espionage being that utilizes the NGCP's transmission
I guess
lines.
if
just fear
if the Chinese board members appeared, it would be a sign or an act of trust and good faith, right?
Here's the
If they
thing though,
did
like
appear.
in
Well,
my
maybe
opinion,
it could just be show
Exaggerated.
respect kind of
Yeah.
thing.
it was
right?
they did say na babastos kami that hindi sila pumunta, right? The two board directors. But for me, it's a simple matter of you privatized it. It was open for bidding. Congress itself granted the 25-year franchise, and then to take it away. At the same time, we're always looking for foreign investors, and this is the kind of example that they are going to be looking at.
That's right.
What does it say that this is the first investment of the Maharlika Wealth Fund, right?
Also that.
It was to
It's a
be
posturing.
expected. By the way, it was to be expected. There have been rumors that it's going to be an energy project, and
The
again,
first one?
the very first one from
yeah.
Maharlika, and also that it was going to be NGCP because they wanted to take back
Some of the privatized.
a huge stake in the.
But also
grid
remember
operator.
that starting summer of last year, and even in 2023, they were always ragging on the NGCP because of the red alerts. And at that time, they were already talking about dividing into 2 franchises, all the stuff that the NGCP does. They're saying that can be 2 franchises, and maybe Maharlika can take one. So you're right.
We'll see.
Reports were coming out.
We'll see if they get granted a franchise when it's they've got a few years left. So
Well,
I don't know.
Joey Salceda, Congressman Joey Salceda actually said to Maharlika, don't invest in the NGCP. If they're found to be in trouble, then you're also going to be liable.
Wow, he's an economist, so I'm sure he knows what he's talking about.
Well,
But
talking
anyway.
about Chinese New Year,
Talking about Chinese New Year, it is going to be the year of the snake.
tomorrow.
Well, actually on Jan 29, which is Wednesday, tomorrow is the Eve. And tonight's big picture is kind of in theme. And this is also another full circle moment for Robinson's land director, Robina Gokongweipe. She actually poked fun at an age-old urban legend featuring her that actually refused to die down after all these years. If you remember, Robinson's Galleria. you remember the urban legend. So this is the photo. In this photo, she posed among the snake decor at one of her family's department stores. She captioned it with, "Look who finally decided to come out of hiding. My shining, shimmering golden twin with his pretty and pink girlfriend. Here's to a slitheringly good year of the snake." So again, I think I did this earlier, but just to refresh your memory, there was a story in the 90s that Gokong Wepe had a half-man, half-snake twin brother, and that creature supposedly lurked inside Robinson's Galleria's fitting rooms and victimized women, including then It Girl Alice Dixon. Alice Dixon was allegedly paid 850 million pesos to keep her mouth shut about the incident. Fast forward to the year 2018 when the actress starred in a short video for the new Robinson's Mall.
Grabe naman, 850
They've capitalized
million.
on this urban legend.
Good of her to poke fun at that urban
Pagka
legend.
mga Filipino-Chinese, matipid tayo. Hindi tayo magbayad ng 850 million para lang
Back in the day,
secret to weekend.
oh my God, back in the day, that's how much? 1 billion pesos,
Diba?
right?
Just to debunk the myth of Robina's twin,
No,
snake
but,
twin.
you know, it's the usual Robina, her humorous
And
self.
her sense of humor. Okay. We'll ask some of the people over there on the side if they've heard about that urban legend.
Bukas, teka lang, wear red tomorrow.
Okay, just close it first.
But that's it
Bilis na.
for the big story tonight.
Hindi mawawala yung urban legend na yun. Pag nakapula, maswerte. Oo. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.